Hello again. If you were in school Friday, March 13th, then you got a whole explanation of this right to get what you want assignment, the New York Times editorial assignment. And if you were not at school, or you have my class on a white day, you didn't get this assignment because, the world turned upside down and now we don't go to school anymore. Weird. Anyway, I want to explain this to you because it's kind of a lot. So if you were in my class on Friday, March 13th, you don't even need this video. And if you were not in my class Friday, March 13th, I recommend watching it. I'll try to make it really fast. Okay? Okay, because I know that's what is nice. So first, look at this janky setup. Look what I've done to you. I don't have screencasting yet. I tried to get it and it didn't work. So I just want to show you a couple things. I apologize. I don't know what I'm doing, you guys. I'm figuring this out as I go. But this assignment, this right to get what you want assignment, oh my gosh, I'm assaulting your eyes with this. I'm sorry. Actually, before I do that and make your eyes hurt, I can just tell you that on that assignment, there are 2 pages. The first page has the option to write an editorial to the New York Times. They're having an editorial contest for high school students. That's you. So it's a great assignment. An editorial is basically what we've been doing all year. It's a persuasive piece of writing. It's argumentative writing. You have to make a claim. You have to provide reasoning, support your reasoning with evidence. And you get to write about anything that is interesting to you. So it's a pretty great assignment. And the maximum word limit is 450. It's brief. What students typically find is that they struggle like me trying to say a sentence. They struggle with staying under the word count because, they choose things they're passionate about. But so there are 2 assignment options. The first one is on that first page that you'll see, and it's writing an editorial that you actually submit to the New York Times. Okay? It's not an option to just write the editorial and turn it into me. If you ask me, I will say no. Okay? The New York Times people will read it. That's part of the assignment, is you writing for someone besides me. Okay, the second page has the option for you to write to get something you want. So you can write to your employer, you can write to someone in the district to make a request for something, request a policy change or a rule change. In the past, I had students who worked at Galaxy Theaters in Atascadero, and they couldn't keep tips if they weren't 21 years old. So they have tip jars at the concession counter, and at the end of a shift, all the tips would be added up and divided among whoever was 21 or older. And it was a bummer. So I had 2 different students write to the corporate offices of Galaxy, and they never heard back. And at the end of the year, I kept checking in, and they hadn't heard back. And then finally, or the next year when I was assigning this to my students, I mentioned that 2 of my students had written to Galaxy about keeping their tips, and one of my students said, "We can keep our tips. I work at Galaxy. We get to keep our tips." So it worked. Woo! It was pretty exciting. I had another student write to his parents, write a formal request, argumentative request, that he should be able to move into their guest house. They had like an extra little guest house in the back. And he had asked his parents about it before, and they always said no. And then this time, he wrote up a formal request, and he had pieces of evidence which were explaining why it was a good thing for him and his independence. And he argued that it would be better for their family in lots of ways, and they let him move. So anyway, that's the kind of thing. Sometimes people write to request to have the dirt lot paved. As you can see, that hasn't worked. ever, because people tend to write to Mrs. Needham, and it's not her decision. That's a board member decision, and it requires a whole proposal and everything. So I'm happy to help you come up with ideas. Either way, you are submitting this to someone besides me. You're submitting it to your employer or Mrs. Needham or Mr. Aston or the board or a parent, or some business in town, or you're submitting it to the New York Times editorial contest. Those are your two options. People sometimes realize that it's more anonymous to send an editorial to the New York Times. They don't know you. So if you're lacking confidence and you don't really want to share this with the principal or another teacher or your employer, New York Times is the way to go, because they don't know you. You don't have to feel rotten that they're judging you or something. So I want to show you this, and it will be janky and terrible on your eyeballs, and I'm sorry, but I want to show you this one thing. Okay, on the assignment, there's this, everything's a link, obviously, if it's blue, but I want to show you, why can't I get to it? Scroll. Okay, I want to show you this 401 more ideas. Oh my gosh. It takes you to the New York Times website, and it just lists all these ideas. Do you spend too much time on smartphones, playing stupid games? Is it okay for men to, where did it go? Where did it go? I don't know. Oh, all this stuff. Like, is it okay to refuse to serve same-sex couples? Dating and sex. How should parents address internet porn? Hey, that's exciting. All this stuff about high school sports. Does a championship game always need to have a winner? So, oh my gosh, you guys, so many topics. What artists or bands of today are destined for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? You can write about anything. At what age should children be allowed to go places without adult supervision? If you're old enough to vote, will you? Is prom worth it? Is prom just an excuse to drink? The thing that's really cool is that you can click on this, any of these links, and they'll take you to an article published in the New York Times. Here's why that's great. It's great because when you click on the rubric, you can see it's a requirement to have 2 sources, and one of them has to be from the New York Times. So it's pretty cool because they're kind of doing that work for you by finding a good piece of evidence. So anyway, you can write about anything. You could write about a business that has been closed in the last week that you think should be deemed an essential business and it should be allowed to be open. You could write about the opposite. There's a lot going on in our world. You can write about anything you're passionate about. You're going to see how long this video is, and you're going to decide you don't want to watch it. It's over 8 minutes. I'm trying to explain this in a way that's quick as possible for the people who were gone. Sorry it's so long. You'll probably have tons of questions, but I'm going to stop talking now because you want to. You want me to. And that's all. Email me questions. Okay, you're my favorite. Bye.